I'm here today with Maria Boulden. Maria, it's so great to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Lori, I am so honored to be a part of this, and it's so great to spend time with you. Thank you for including me.
Oh, you bet. Now you have an interesting you've had a very interesting career journey, and I want to start back at when you were at Drexel University and you got a degree in chemical engineering, and I'm curious as to what your thought process was about was that the plan was to be an engineer?
Actually, the plan was to be a hairdresser. I grew up in an Italian family, Italian immigrants. And frankly, in my family, up until my older sisters and older brother went to college, number one, not many people went to college in my family,
Uh,
extended family.
yeah.
Number two, it was a big hell no for daughters of our families to go to college. In fact, I had uncles that had very stern conversations with my father on why he was wasting his money on my sisters and I going to college when we were
Because you should just get married or
and have babies.
yeah.
In fact, one of my favorite great aunts was with my one of my older sisters. My older sisters were turning like 21 and 20, and she was saying, "You're running out of time. Madonna mia, go get a husband and get some children."
Wow.
Yeah, so it was interesting in my family in and of itself to go to college, but both of my parents, besides being amazing, were very big believers in education because of the things that stood in their way, not the least of which was the lack of education for two very brilliant people.
Uh,
So, son or daughters, they always made sure that we knew college was an option for us. They had kind of run out of money by the time I came along as the youngest, which I know
Me
you
too.
wasn't.
I had the same situation.
Not fortunately, back then, you could work summer jobs and winter jobs and earn enough for your first year, and I figured it out from there. So yeah, Drexel basically was all I could afford. I was encouraged to go to college because I was a pretty smart kid. I had taken a lot of calculus and a lot of chemistry in high school, and I had a guidance counselor that was keen enough to pull me aside and say, "You're not going into the VOTEC program. You
Wow.
need to get colleges." And like I said, Drexel was all I could afford.
Yeah.
Um, I especially loved chemistry, but I had a feeling chemistry wasn't a good career path. And having grown up in a family that didn't have a lot of money, I literally looked up what is the highest paying job that involves chemistry, and it was chemical engineering. Of all the engineerings at the time, that was
Wow.
on top, with the exception of electrical engineering, and that was my brother did that, so I didn't want
Yeah.
to.
And
Didn't
that's
want
how
to
you
do it.
decided?
That's how I decided.
Wow. And
Yeah,
so then were you recruited out of school or did you get your
I
job
was.
after?
So that's how I paid for college. Drexel, not only was it close and very reasonable at the time, Drexel requires cooperative education or
Ah, yeah.
internships
Yep.
for engineering majors. So all I had to do was have enough money for my first year, and
Yeah.
DuPont hired me as a rising sophomore for their to be a co-op there.
Yeah.
And that not only gave me the penultimate experience of my life in every facet of my life, it paid for my university,
Yeah,
which
and
was,
DuPont was a big deal. I mean,
yeah.
that I
I
mean it might still be, but I know back then
No, I die a
DuPont was
little bit every day to think about what it is now,
yeah,
but it was a big deal at the
big
time.
deal. Yeah, it was a premier brand and that's neat. And so you were an engineer for a number of years,
I
but
went.
you moved how did you get into sales?
Believe it or not, that's not as remarkable as it sounds to the rest of the world. In DuPont, it was they drove equal opportunity before people talked about equal opportunity.
Yeah.
The great equalizer in DuPont was, are you a good engineer?
Yeah.
It didn't matter what you looked like or what you dressed like. All that mattered was, were you good at being an engineer? And DuPont really believed that they could take any engineer and morph them into any function.
Wow.
They had, with the exception of obvious things like legal or finance or
Yeah.
things like that. But it, every DuPont sales professional was an engineer.
Oh,
Every
interesting.
DuPont
Yeah.
marketing professional back then, we had,
Right.
although marketing DuPont never really understood, but basically every manager was an engineer. Everybody was an engineer.
Ah,
So they would find the ones that had some degree of charm and communication skills and hand them their customer list, their paper customer
yeah.
list. Now, at the time, I was in manufacturing, so I loved my manufacturing career, and I felt like that was my path.
Yeah.
But part of DuPont's employee value proposition is the diversity of its entity. You could try
Mm,
different business models, you could try different industry verticals, you could try different functions.
mm,
And I felt like I would come back to manufacturing, but I wanted to try on what else was out there.
yeah.
And I took a tech service job that gave me the first look at the customer interface. And all I wanted to do was give that a chance, like just try on other things. And it was like that scene in The Wizard of Oz where it goes from black and white to color.
Oh,
I was
wow.
captivated by um, the human behavior aspects of what the best sellers did
Yeah.
versus the average ones. And, this nerd that loved solving differential equations and climbing distillation columns, now all I wanted to do was understand, why is that person better than the person that's out buying the steak dinners and making all the noise?
Yeah.
This is the one making their numbers. And I became fascinated by sales, highly discouraged from going into it because I didn't have charm or communication skills.
No way.
Oh, trust me, this is an evolution. But I persevered. I landed my first sales job, and I never did go back. I did explore different business models and industry verticals thanks to what DuPont had always been to me, which was
Yeah.
amazing. But I never went back to manufacturing because I loved the commercial space. So
Wow.
I did take a brief break from it when my youngest was born severely prematurely,
Oh,
and had to be true to myself and go take care of my family. And at the time, DuPont, again, took really good care of me and said, well, we're starting up this top line growth thing where we're going to deploy black belts
oh yeah.
in
Sigma.
Six Sigma, and it's never been done before. So you're going to
Oh,
be the first or one of the first. And that was the game changer. They also qualified that by saying, you realize we're going to have to redline you from a corporate promotable standpoint, which was code for you're not going to be fast tracked into any kind of leadership position possibility.
because you're a mom or because
No,
of the Six
because
Sigma?
I was
Uh,
taking myself off the fast track.
ah,
I went to DuPont and said, I will count beans for you if I can work somewhere around 40 hours a week and not travel, because I
ah,
really need to focus on my family anymore.
yeah.
And that was code for, I'm not going to give you everything anymore.
That's
So I,
great.
yeah, I mean,
But they worked with you. I mean, it sounds like it was somewhat transparent,
it
unlike
was,
many situations for women in corporate.
or anyone in corporate, like the
Yeah.
idea of, yes, there is a life balance out there, but it means different things to different people, including
Yeah.
your employer. And at the time, they had the decency to be real with me. I wasn't happy about it, but I
Yeah.
said, give me a pen. I
Yeah.
need to do this for my family. So I redlined myself
Well,
and said, let's take this a day as it comes. So interestingly, the very job that was supposed to derail my career defined it,
mm,
because it was the statistical application of Six Sigma and science
yeah.
to commercial interface that became my brand and frankly my playbook. Because
Yeah.
as you may have heard me say before, I do think in spreadsheet, or I do
Yeah.
think in numbers. I have reading issues, but I don't have number issues. So the idea of applying statistical best practices to what the best salespeople do and why they get higher price points and why there's less profitability leakage made complete sense to me
Yeah.
and hadn't been done in DuPont before.
or probably elsewhere. Sales
Exactly.
was kind of a black hole,
It
you know.
was. And it was thought of as charm and communication skills.
Yeah,
There was
taking
no
people to
other.
dinner. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
So having the privilege to explore that mathematically gave me my first big sales team whose quota got measured with a B. So it was my first $1 billion leadership opportunity. And fortunately for me, the guy that hired me to do that ultimately became the CEO and he pulled me along as he did. And I
that's
will
great.
always be grateful for that.
Yeah,
So that was kind of a meandering way to my career at DuPont that I will always be
wow,
grateful to have had.
that's amazing. That's great. And then was Gartner a vendor at DuPont? Is that how you got to know Gartner?
They were. Gartner at the time, it was the corporate executive board that ultimately got bought
All
by
right,
Gartner.
CEB.
And CEB had everything I wanted. They were a science-based, like
Right.
Gartner,
Yeah,
um, data-driven organization that drew powerful insights from real, relevant, current data.
your
And
people.
they were everything I wanted them to be and more. So I subscribed to CEB as a DuPont leader. I managed what was at the time an enterprise relationship between CEB and DuPont. And when CEB got bought by Gartner, it was a no-brainer that I was going to continue that subscription. And I was a Gartner nerd and they were in my ear. Brent Adamson and I became fast friends
Yeah,
when he was at CEB, then Gartner, and writing Challenger.
yeah, right.
And a lot of my Challenger approach was born from Brent and those conversations before Challenger was even published. And
Wow.
Brent is like be all end all to me
Yes,
for a
me
lot of
too.
reasons, and that's one of
He's
them.
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah, and what I am a big believer that what he did with Matt Dixon defined commercial execution for the 2000s and still does,
yeah,
even even with frame making sale out there as an extension or the
yeah,
next step.
yeah.
So yeah, just incredible
That's
experience
interesting.
with DuPont and the evolution to commercial.
And then
And
they invited you to come to
so
Gartner?
Gartner was in my ear even before I was even thinking about leaving, and I just pushed it off, pushed it off. But Brent is an amazing sales professional in and of himself. And the opportunity, he kept saying we could do some cool work together. And at that point, at that stage of your career, it's not about the money.
Right.
Um, I had lots of really cool opportunities that I'm grateful to have offered to me that were way more money, but I just wanted to do that. I wanted to work with him. And I thought, I'll give it a couple of years. And I was asked to come in and start up the chief sales officer, chief revenue officer program, get it off the ground. I gave it 2 years. I actually stayed for 5
Yeah.
because I loved it. I loved everything about it
Yeah.
um, until it just, I felt like I did everything I wanted to do there and it was time to do something else.
Well, one of the things I love about Gartner and CEB originally did some studies about women in sales and sales leadership. And that was some of the first credible data, because people talk and you assume things and you say things, but to have numbers and to pull the CEB and then Gartner clients and ask them about how many women are in leadership and how many women are in sales, I thought it was really groundbreaking and really important. And I hope they do it again, Gartner.
We need it
Um,
now more than ever.
yeah, it hasn't been done in a while, but that really added to the conversation. And women are still underrepresented in just about every role in sales and definitely in leadership. The higher you go, the less women. And in this climate too, it's not gotten better. And what surprised me though, even going back to the pandemic, I thought that because one of the biggest things about a sales leader is travel, and sales leaders would be on the road tons, and that not a lot of women who have families or even other responsibilities in general, common sense. You don't want to be on the road forever, 3, 4 days a week. And I really thought that would change things. And there's so many remote roles now, but we still don't see much of a change in leadership. And I just wondered if that's ever surprised you or if you even thought about it.
I thought about it a lot, especially as I was trying to recruit former chief revenue officers for executive partner roles at Gartner. The number one requirement to be an executive partner for that job is to have had that job. It was very hard to inject diversity into that team. Thankfully, we did, but the pipeline of accomplished women who've spent more than a year or two in a CRO role.
Yeah.
I, again, fortunately, we found them, and we
Yeah.
have in my tenure, and I'm sure they still have them. There were some real juggernauts,
Yeah.
but boy, was it hard to find. My husband said you have to change the criteria, and I would not. Like, that criteria. There's no credibility if you don't know the heat of the seat.
Right.
It's also, like you, hopeful that the shift to remote work might change that, but what it doesn't change is what I perceived, and what probably has some reality to it, is the need to be the belief that you have to be always connected. So I worked remotely, probably, if I'm honest with myself, for the last 10 years of my career, probably 25 years. Remote. I
You're
traveled
always there,
all
right?
the time.
Always. Yeah.
So I worked from home, but 80% of the time I was in a hotel or on a 777. But at Gartner, I was entirely remote,
Yeah.
but I still always worked.
Yeah.
And I don't think parents, mom or dad,
Yeah.
um, you can't always be on.
Right. Yeah. It's definitely a choice. It's definitely,
And statistics show moms are still doing most of the work in families. It's not a sexist comment, but
yes.
a
Right.
comment.
Women are the caregivers still.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
interesting because I heard a woman I know, her name's Jill Frediani. I hope to have her on this podcast in a future episode. And she it has been in sales for a long time. She works at HubSpot. And she talked about in 2019 when her daughter was young, she couldn't be that. She didn't travel, but she worked early in the morning and she worked late at night, and she said, it wasn't helping my marriage. It wasn't helping. I can't be a mom that way. And she had to change her hours. And what happened was she missed her quota for the first time. She was always an overachiever, top performer. And she had this setup where she worked and worked and worked, and it worked really well for her to hit her numbers, but it was killing her at home. And so she ended up missing and got put on plan. And so she talked about how she felt really bad about it and was ready to just, walk away, and then said, you know what, I'm going to figure this out. And she put a plan together. She ended up, so even today, like, she's still at HubSpot. And she doesn't take a meeting before 10 a.m. and she works like between 8 and 10 to get everything caught up. She totally changed her thinking, and, she made President's Club the next year. And so because she figured it out and changed things, but she'd be the first one also to say, you can't do it all. You can't.
Well, and I think, it's the motherhood invention in some ways, because I think whether you're a mom or a dad or a caregiver for an aging parent or
Yeah.
whatever other aspect of your life pulls you from sales or
Yeah.
whatever, we have to find the balance. I was very fortunate when we knew he was going to be okay. I was starting to look around of, okay, I've been on this. I was a black belt, and then I was a master black belt. So basically, in DuPont speak, I was on the bench
Ah,
4 years, even though I was known for the
yeah.
work, but I was on the bench from a sales perspective. You hadn't been in sales for 4 years. You haven't led a team of sellers. You've led master black belts and black belts, but you haven't led sellers. So it's different. It's
Yeah.
changed. 4 years is 28 in dog years. I had to almost prove myself to get that job. And I guarantee you, the guy that gave me the job with the $1 billion revenue target, he didn't do that because I had it. He was a scientist that appreciated the Six Sigma background and was smart enough to recognize that, the going out to dinner takers weren't exactly the ones that were the best. And he basically took a chance on me.
Yeah.
And the planets aligned because at the time, my husband, who is my ignition source
Yeah.
of everything, uh, never got a degree. DuPont enabled him to progress because he was freakishly smart and really good at what he did. But unfortunately, he still was bumping up against a glass ceiling
Ah.
that exists in lots of places besides gender,
Mhm.
unfortunately. And so he was getting frustrated, and we decided it was probably a good time for him to retire. And we, at that point, I just figured we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll spend less money. We'll figure it out. And he said, you know what? Since we've had children, you've always been the one to make the sacrifices. You've been always the one putting your career on the back burner, even though you're the one in a company that recognizably doesn't necessarily give opportunity to people without degrees. You still gave that to me. Why don't you go see what you could do?
Hmm.
And that, I always joke with him now, like, oh, that was your way of getting out of workings. And I go, work my ass off. But to me, and I know this is from his heart, that was him saying, I got this. I got you.
Yeah.
I will do the hard work at home.
Yeah.
So you can go try your wings and see just how far you can fly the plane. And that was so liberating and so inspiring and so energizing to me.
Yeah.
Um,
And
yeah, of
that,
course, regrets about time spent away, but I always knew the kids were so loved,
yeah.
and two tween boys that had their dad home. Like that was
Yeah.
mm,
That's so great. And it ties into the advice to anybody coming up that your partner in life is so critical to your success in business.
it's so true. And being true to yourself. Because and to that person, because they are making a huge sacrifice that
Yeah.
sometimes I forgot and have to remind myself when you come home and want to
Yeah.
drop everything and you're peopled out and you don't want to talk.
Right.
But by the same token, there were a lot of sacrifices I made, um, that, he had given me a blank check to go make and prove myself. And some of it were mistakes,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna fly home for the homecoming game and I was going to surprise them for senior night and other things like that. But there were times I should have been home,
Yeah.
but ego and ambition,
Mm.
um, yeah, it drove my career and I'm
Yeah.
really proud of it. But I didn't always make choices that were in their best interest. And I was lucky that they were so flexible and loving. And my kids don't remember them, or so they say, and they're
Yeah.
pretty amazing humans.
That's great. It
Not
worked
as
out. It worked
Yeah, I
out.
think. But those are challenges that every parent, especially women, are going to face when
Yeah.
you know how to do the job and you're driven by doing it, in my case, better than any. I wanted to redefine excellence. I didn't. The first way to get me to do something is say you can't do it. I had an uncle that said, chemical engineering is hard. You can't do that. It's okay. Well, you're going to be the first one to see my degree that says summa cum laude because I'm gonna show you. And I love the statistic that 80% of people allow their fear of failure to get in the way of their desire to succeed. I never wanted to be that person. And for better or for worse, that unstoppable brand that I always tried to carry, I made some mistakes because of it.
Yeah.
So that's life, right?
Yeah. So what
And
advice would you give that young college grad getting into DuPont?
I think right now I still feel compelled to be unstoppable and but I think I probably cared too much. Early on, I cared too much about what other people thought And I don't think I really excelled as a commercial professional in any way until I stopped caring so much. I used to call it effort mode. I knew what the right thing to do was. And in a lot of cases, it wasn't that it was, I would never do anything immoral, illegal. It was just different. And, in a corporate environment, people still look as different as not good. Like, we've tried that. We haven't tried that before, but that's not what we do. And I don't know if anyone, Lorraine Marchand just released No Fear, No
I
Failure, and
saw that. Yeah, I saw
it
your
really
post.
defines where I was in my career.
Mm.
I was so worried about not failing. I didn't care so much about that, but I cared about being in the mainstream where I wouldn't get noticed.
Ah,
And it wasn't until I had, I don't know if I'd call it guts, but I had the thought to say, I don't care if it's never been done before. It's the right thing to do now. And pushing for that brought us results I hadn't seen before. And that became my, not breaking ranks for the sake of breaking ranks, but using my challenger insights and other sales related techniques to show what the path should be in an organization that was kind of stuck in old ways.
yeah,
And that, and then I started getting the broken sales teams because that was giving us success.
yeah. Oh, that's so interesting.
So
So
my
final,
advice to answer the question would be true to yourself, and don't give up aspects of your life that are important to you, but be unstoppable when it comes to doing the right thing,
that's great.
whether it's commercially or the right thing.
Yeah, which ties in my last thing was just advice you'd have for particularly women that are looking to climb the corporate ladder when many women are leaving corporate for various reasons.
I think, again, I think you have to be true to yourself about why you want it, woman, man, whatever.
Yeah,
It will never be fair. I wish I could. I think it's better than it was when we were coming up.
yeah,
No one's offering to give me a job because I sleep with them or give me,
right.
that might still happen, but I think we have to, number one, again, be true to ourselves, always do the right thing, recognize there is no perfection in this world, and unfortunately, I feel like sometimes we're sliding on the fairness scale and the do
Mm.
the right thing scale in the current environment. It doesn't stop us from doing it. And when you couple doing the right thing with being unstoppable,
Yeah.
a pretty amazing thing happens. And again, resolve, it's not going to be fair. Do it anyway.
And I think finding companies that you believe in and leadership,
I believe in.
right? Leadership that is ethical and high integrity and companies that, great companies that do good.
And that's hard. I mean, you probably saw the statistic, like if it's Forbes or somebody like that, that only 32% of people trust their senior leadership.
Wow.
If that's not an indictment of corporate leadership today, I don't know what is. I hope every C-suite is looking at that because, I know it was an indictment of executive levels, but that's an indictment of anyone that has the privilege to lead anywhere, because you can't trust the middle or the low end of leadership if it's coming from the
From the
top.
top. Yeah.
That kind of screams urgency to me as a leader.
Oh, that's amazing. Maria Boulden, it's been so great to have you on. Thank you
I love this
for,
conversation. No, it's not an hour, but thank you.
I know, wasn't it great? Thank you so much and continued success in all your other endeavors now that you've kind of stepped away from corporate.
Thank you so much, Lori. I'm actually still in it from an advisory standpoint.
Aha.
Uh,
That's good to know. Who's your
but
ideal client? Are they
I work with people I like doing things I like. And as long as those two criteria are met, everything else makes sense.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's nice to have that option now. I
Yeah.
actually a lot. I had it a lot sooner than I thought I did. I just took me a while to wrap my head around it.
That's fantastic. It's yeah, it's the ultimate when you can choose who you want to do business with.
It really is, and I find myself balancing my life because I live a few steps from the beach and I love being outside, but I also balance my corporate work with my nonprofit work, and that balance is now more important to me than ever. So I still love having a hand in it. I don't think this corporate environment allows you to step away for long, or unless you're planning to step away forever, because it
Yeah.
changes too fast.
Well,
Yeah. But I love being a student of what the world is trying to teach us in every aspect.
yeah.
Thank you for having me. This was amazing.
Thank you.